This is the Unofficial Pi podcast number 9, and it's been quite a few weeks right now since I've recorded anything. So, seems like at this point, maybe sometimes I will and sometimes I won't so much. I'll do what I can to keep up with it. If you're going to use or join any of the platforms that I've been talking about for the Pi network, you can use my invite code. That's Converge20, so CONVERGE 20. The information is going to be in the show notes below as well. For the B network, you can use my invite code Converge21. And for Timestope, you can use my invite code Converge21 as well. All that information is going to be in the show notes below. So, okay. The first thing I wanted to mention here is the idea of the fertility of death. So, how can death and fertility, coexist? I think of leaves that fall from trees, or even trees after they've, after they're no longer going to be alive. Then they turn into compost and they become food for other trees. And likewise, humans live a certain amount of time, and that time that we live after we've lived, or I guess during our lifetime, we often consider death. We consider our mortality. But that ability to consider death makes us think about things that are to come, think about change, keep in mind the idea of change. And so considering death is fertile to life. It makes us think of things that, they're not going to be staying the same forever. If we were invincible, then I think we would become more likely to become stagnant. So considering death makes us change, and we are on the cusp of major changes in the financial life of the entire world right now, is how I am seeing and experiencing what is going on. So I think that's something important to consider. So I know that I haven't done a show for a few weeks, but life happens at points. It's been, I guess I've just been tired. Also, I guess I don't know, somewhat distracted by life. So, there's that information. So I was listening to a show. It was, I think, on the Bankless podcast, and it had the founder of the Ethereum project there, Vitalic, and he was talking about the soul of a project, and that brought to my attention the often described backers and supporters of the Bitcoin project, the backers of the Ethereum project, and how deeply these people believe in these systems. And I don't consider myself so much any one particular camp, but I do strongly support and believe in the ethos of decentralized finance, digital assets. And so I don't know that there's going to be one. I think it's obvious that there's going to be more than one. I feel like there are so many use cases, even with my limited view, perspective, and involvement at this point. It's just clear that there's going to be an ecosystem for these. They serve different functions at different places in society. Just like there's not one plant on the entire planet, just like there's not one animal, in the entire animal, there's an entire animal kingdom, not just one animal. There's not one type of fish in the ocean. I think that there's going to be more than one type of digital asset. So, for the Bitcoin maximalists out there, I really have a hard time seeing the perspective that there will only ever be one. I understand that Bitcoin's narrative as a store of value is pretty much complete at this point. And so it has a really clear path for its goal in a social role, but I don't think that there's only ever going to be one. So I think that's something really interesting to consider. Also, regarding the soul of a project, there are things that people are willing to do for free to help a project that do not drain funds from the project. And that's important, because if you have to be paid to do everything in life up front, in some sense, then, that can drain the energy out of a project. But it's not about being paid monetarily all the time. Sometimes there are other ways of rewarding certain types of activities. For instance, in the Pi network, if you invite people early, then you get, a reward for the number of people that you've invited. If you are dealing with, people, the earlier you get started, the better off you're going to be. And the more people you invite, the better off you're going to be as well. So the game theory supporting these networks at this point is pretty significant. So I was also listening to something from Michael Saylor, and he was talking about an idea. I think he described it in The Mobile Wave. I haven't read the book, but he was presenting the idea that technology has gone through phases, and they're analogous to the phases that water is able to turn into. For instance, when you had the original computer, it was a big, bulky, pretty much immovable object. And so it was pretty weak, not very capable, but still did some interesting things, had some interesting capabilities, but it was considered like the solid state of the computer. It was a rock. It was the iced state of computing. And then eventually we got things like laptops that made computing become more liquid, so it was more available, or the personal computer even was a little bit more liquid than the original computers, but there's still, a transition from solid into a liquid state. So I would say that laptops are a more liquid form of computing. They're more present on a global scale, but not ubiquitous. And then when you get to the mobile wave of computing, where computers are now in the form of a cell phone, originated, or made most popular by the introduction of the iPhone, the realization that Apple Computer is now the most valuable company on the planet. This occurs because of the importance and significance and impact on a global scale of computing turning into vapor. It's the vapor state of computing. So we had the solid state with computers, even personal computers, the liquid state with laptops, and the vapor state with the computers that we have in our pockets called cell phones. And this is, an amazing idea. And so what we're able to do with the Pi network, with the B network, with Timestope, is we're able to leverage the power of the vapor state of computing. We're able to also leverage the vapor state of computing in banking. And who knows how many revolutionary technologies will be impacted by this level of connectivity and power that is in our hands at this point. So I also had some thoughts about marketing, which were interesting in the sense that the original and best marketers of any product are the people who use that product. And if you happen to have a friend that uses a product or a project, then they are the best ones to tell you the information about that project. It has become a big business in its own right, but the original marketers were your friends. You didn't have to spend a huge amount of money in order to, introduce a product to a person, as long as you had a really dedicated and devoted customer base. And I'm thinking about, all the money that was spent on advertisement during the Super Bowl at this point. But in contrast to that perspective of, advertising becoming big business and, just huge sums of money that are paid to present ideas to people, and people are, a lot of times aware of it at this point. So I don't know how effective that advertising is, because, why would I go out and buy, pretty much any other combustion car, ICE car, when you've driven an electric car? If you've driven a Tesla, then it's like, you're probably not going to be buying another ICE car. You just are not interested. So all the advertising in the world is not necessarily going to change your mind. But, Tesla, they spend $0 on advertising because they have such a dedicated customer base that they pretty much get that service done as it was originally intended to be done, in the best way possible. So, you're hearing about it here, and they're definitely not necessarily paying me to do that. And again, there's a game theory aspect of it, because they did have a point where they did have a referral program, and you would, you know, reap some benefit for inviting a certain number of people, but they've since pretty much concluded that, even though they're still growing in leaps and bounds. So, yeah, now they pretty much have a market cap, you know, greater than all the other car companies on the planet, and still, you know, marketing is pretty much zero on their budget. So cryptocurrencies will be something like that as well. Also, you know, the news came out that Tesla bought Bitcoin. I know it might be old news at this point, but I'm just saying it to commemorate it. Like, Elon Musk and Tesla stock in general were one of the earliest investments that I made, you know, highest conviction investments. And, you know, I eventually started learning about cryptocurrency or digital assets and changed the allocation in my portfolio to match my conviction in the future ability of these two different sectors, but they are now coming together, and Bitcoin and Tesla have pretty much, you know, merged at this point, which I think is fascinating. So eventually Tesla actually followed me into the digital asset space, which is, I think, you know, an amazing idea. So there's, you know, on that topic, I feel like just the work that Michael Saylor has done in the short time that he's been involved in the cryptocurrency space is just phenomenal. So someone mentioned that Michael Saylor gets Rookie of the Year for, you know, his work and just effect in the digital asset space. And I would definitely support that if there was such a thing, if there was such an award. So, yeah, kudos to Michael Saylor for his ability and for his just, you know, pretty much role as a, I would say, like a financial prophet. I mean, the way that this guy speaks about the future of computing and just, you know, the structure of the world that we're heading into is, you know, analogous to a prophet. And the way that he invests aggressively, you know, with conviction, considering his perspective, is like amazing as well. So, you know, on top of that, a price of, you know, one Bitcoin easily surpassed $50,000, and right now is up to about, you know, $58,000 as I record this. And it passed it with like really not much fanfare. It's like, you know, when it passed 20,000, there was more of a celebratory recognition of that milestone, and it hit 50,000, you know, not much later, but like, you know, with not much fanfare as well. It's like, oh yeah, one Bitcoin's $50,000, you know. Like, I'm thinking, I guess the next mental milestone for me is like you know, $100,000 on some level. But with that said, it was really close to a $1 trillion market cap at this point, and now it has surpassed the $1 trillion market cap as well. So, you know, so many companies have been flipped at this point. I think the next company to be flipped by Bitcoin is going to be Google. When at this point, Google is $1.4 trillion and Bitcoin is $1.067 trillion. So the flippenings are happening. And so, it's going to be Google, then it's going to be Amazon, then it's going to be Microsoft, then it's going to be Apple. And after that, gold, pretty much has a target on its back for the Bitcoin flippening. So yeah, I think these flippenings are interesting timestamps in the road to Bitcoin dominance. And speaking of just these assets, gold has been, if not on a downward trend in this cycle, it's been at least stagnant, which is, phenomenal. Like, you can see Bitcoin and digital assets in general pretty much sucking the life out of gold, sucking the pent up energy in the financial sector. And the financial sector is pretty much the storage platform for humanity's collective energy, which is important. It stores it in time, it stores it in space, it stores it in energy. So the digital asset space is just, sucking that up like left, right, and center. And that's incredible to see. So I wonder it seems like it's happening at an increasing rate as well. It's the idea of exponential growth. It's the idea of, the snowball effect. Like, the bigger you are, the bigger you're able to get bigger. What Berkshire Hathaway, really isn't growing that much, it seems. Like, they get to a point where they've reached their carrying load, but Bitcoin and the digital asset space in a general sense is just getting started, which is phenomenal. So yeah, I feel like I describe it as my face being melted, but I feel like honestly my life is being melted right now with what's going on in the digital asset space. I mean, I need to really reevaluate my entire life, considering, just what's going on, what my line of work is, and what I'm going to be doing going forward, because there is just so much that I want to do, but I feel that, my time here is just being distracted right now. Maybe I don't know, maybe I just feel like I need a bit of a mental break from my current routine. So I'm setting up situations for that to happen. But yeah, this space can be pretty much, consuming, and it's gonna be interesting to see where it takes us all in the next, few years. So that's going to be that for today. If you enjoy the show, you can, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to be notified for when more shows come out like this. And until next time, keep on mining. Stay up to speed with what's going on in this sector, because it will have significant impacts on your life. Oh yeah, I guess a few side notes on the way out. Some countries, most notably India and Nigeria, recently have decided to ban cryptocurrencies, and that's going to be interesting how it plays out, because I just feel like they're cutting off their ability to officially benefit from, some of the most significant advancements in society in modern time. And why would anybody want to do that? It makes no sense. So it'd be interesting to see how, these bans, within quotes, plays out over time. But yeah, very, very interesting times that we're living in. So mass adoption by, a grassroots portion of humanity, where the managers in our social constructs, want to keep their power structures in place and clearly do not have the ability to do so completely. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. Keep mining, get up, push those buttons. I know it gets tiring at points. How could it be time to push a button? Well, we have a way of making things tiring as humanity. So, but, keep on pushing those buttons. And until next time, keep on mining and keep on rethinking.